Tuesday, 13th of January 2026. And in the first show of the new year, we catch up on a hat-trick of defeats since the last pod. Starting with the 5-1 debacle at Port Vale on New Year's Day, the lacklustre 2-1 home reverse to Bradford, and last Saturday's narrow defeat at Portman Road as our plucky pool were knocked out of the third round of the FA Cup. Courtesy of the Tractor Boys, I'm John Aspinall. This is CSA's podcast match traction show, Ipswich 2, Blackpool 1, and other New Year blues. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to CSA's podcast, the first of 2026. On panel tonight, Nick, Tom, and Andy. Gents, we thought we'd turned a corner. Tom, we had a fantastic Christmas, which no one predicted, beat all the stats, but it's all gone tits up since then.
Yeah, casting minds back to Port Vale, we all were there going with full of optimism, weren't we? I know I was lucky enough to meet yourself and Nick in the pub beforehand, full of optimism, all putting bets on. I think we were at quite good odds to beat Port Vale. They were bottom of the league. I was lumping on, thinking we're in business, but it all turned to rat shit. As I'm sure we'll come on to. But I've actually looked back at the last 6 games I've done, which spans back to last February, and we've lost all 6. So I'll have to stop going for a little bit.
Yeah, it's a curse. Nick, luckily I couldn't find my Bet365 login. Sky Bet wouldn't let me on, so sacked it off in that nice pub we were in. And very, very pleasant, wasn't it? A nice day ruined by football.
Well, as is often the case, yeah, we should have stayed there. Like Tom says, I think we're all very optimistic, weren't we, leading into that, because we'd had a good run, which doesn't normally happen at Christmas, but we were sort of breaking all sorts of hoodoos. And I know it was a while ago now, so we're not going to go into too much detail on the Vale game, but it was, to be fair, going quite well. It was a bit of a scrappy game. You know, we'd gone 1-0 up and we looked comfortable. You know, you could see why they were bottom of the league. Even though we weren't playing particularly brilliantly. And then our friend from the wrong end of the M55 produced his red card, and it all went pear-shaped from there, really.
Certainly did. The Grice Reaper is with us this evening, but he is sharing his studio with his missus, who's cooking a tea at the same time. So we will be having a fusion of Master Chef and... Andy Grice, chatting away.
I'm just wanting 2026 to do one and just get to 2027 now.
Oh God, yeah. All the optimism was built up again, wasn't it? And it's been slowly sucked out of us over the last 3 games. Thankfully, I didn't see much of the Bradford game, but I saw plenty of the Port Vale game. Few stats to throw at you, gents, before we talk about that. They'd scored 3 goals in the last 5 games. Blackpool hadn't lost to us in last 5 meetings. They'd won 4, drawn 1, hadn't scored. And they hadn't scored in the last 3. We'd scored 12 in our last 5. We hadn't lost in 6. So it was just right on the wall, Tom, what was gonna happen. But just before we talk about the game, I just thought I'd mention the fan tribute that they had to those Port Vale fans that they'd lost in 2025. I thought it was absolutely beautifully done, and I think our club could take the lead from what they did. They had each fan's name read out by a member of the clergy. It wasn't rushed. A picture of the fan who sadly passed away on the message board, and I thought it was quite a moving moment actually. And I stood there and just watched and looked at the faces of the people who'd left us, and I thought it was really, really nice touch. And I think you only get that at smaller clubs, don't you? You'd never get that at Man United, Arsenal, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. And sounds strange, but you don't realise quite how many people. You know, all clubs across the country have lost hundreds of people every year, but it kind of brings it into focus when you actually see all those names read out and you sat there. You know, it went on. It was quite a long time. It was maybe 5 minutes before the game, and then the minute silence as well. But it was, like you say, it was a nice touch, and just to do it on was the last game of the calendar year. and obviously we did it on the first day of the calendar year, depending who was at home out of those two fixtures. But yeah, really well. Everyone obeyed it. Everyone sort of respected it and was silent rather than any chanting. When I was going into the ground, and you could hear a few people chanting sort of in the concourse as you went out, but then it was absolute complete silence when you went out onto the pitch. So yeah, really well respected.
Nick, I think the last time I went to Port Vale was with you and Jim. It must have been about 25 years ago. I've not been since. I was quite surprised to find ourselves in the old home end, I think.
I was saying that to Tim before the game. I'm sure I was at the other end of the ground last time. It's quite a big old away end, isn't it? You know, it's an old school ground, isn't it? It was rather cold and wet and windy on that day, wasn't it? And the outside area was particularly cold and wet. If you were wanting a flat
uncovered, wasn't it? The whole area.
Yeah, the toilets were a bit of a throwback to the West Paddock back in the day. But yeah, it was, it is an old school ground, and I agree with you about the tribute beforehand. It was very well done and very well respected. Yeah.
What was that? Sounds like we're in a washing machine.
I think it's Gracie.
No, it's not. He's muted. It was
Tom. It was there was a plane taking off. Sorry, I live near Leeds Bradford Airport, so it must have been off to Benidorm or something.
Andy was blaming you.
Apologies
to say to that.
For once, she wasn't doing the washing.
But Andy, let's come to you about the Port Vale game then. We obviously a while ago, but they had an early miss, didn't they? Stockley's Blaze went over, but Bloxham's put us one up, and you're thinking, happy days, we're going to cruise to victory.
What a goal. Just like, I'd love to say it was a top corner from 40 yards, whatever. But like, scrappy goal, I thought, but we just, we deserved to be in front, maybe, but we didn't look anything but comfortable in the game, did we? We were going to win the game, weren't we? I thought. And then dear Duckworth, much to the amusement of our knobber brethren down the road, decides to get involved, as he usually does with us. And the rest is history, isn't it? The second half from hell emerged after that sending off. Lot of argument. Some of our own fans thought it was a red, a few, but maybe we've seen them not given. That's for sure.
Nick, did you see the incident live? Because I'd gone for a pint and a piss and actually see it.
I'd done exactly the same as you, and I had a bit of a cheer and thought, oh, what's that? I came back and obviously everyone's going mad. I've seen it back since. It's a funny one because he sort of he's going for the ball. It wasn't a red in my mind, but I think what the rest probably seen is the ball hasn't really gone anywhere because he kind of didn't. The ball had flown away. He's thinking, right, it's a robust challenge, but he's got the ball and maybe a bit of the man. He maybe gets a yellow, but I certainly didn't think it was a red. But I think the refs thought he's gone over the top of the ball and he studs up, and then letter of the law is it's a red card. But then we appeal and it doesn't get rescinded, does it? We had the Rotherham one that went in our favour, game or two before, and theirs gets rescinded, which is weird, really, because if you look at it, I don't think it's a red. I think he's flown in a bit, but
I think Bison's calls it their reckless challenge. I think it was reckless, but it was a strong yellow and telling off and don't do it again.
Yeah, and I'm not, but I don't necessarily buy into the conspiracy of he's done it because he's from Preston. He's just a shit ref, and we seem to get a lot of those. And at that point, like Gracie says, we're comfortable. And you're thinking we can just see the game out because they really didn't have anything at all. And then we compound it by making the change of bringing CJ on, which, again, me and Tim were talking about that. We kind of looked at each other and said, not sure I'd be doing that, really. You could just tuck the defenders in and try and see it out that way. He's probably done it thinking, if we keep it at 1-0, we can hit them on the break. But when you're down to 10 men, you need players on the pitch who can keep hold of the ball. And, CJ isn't that person, is he? He's got his strong points, but holding the ball up really isn't one of them. And then as the game goes on, he ends up front, which, again, he's not a striker, and he's certainly not going to hold the ball up front. That having said that, the red card, I still think that second half performance was poor from a number of players, even factoring in being down to 10 men. It isn't just down to that. We just seemed to I don't know, disappear. There didn't seem to be any leadership. We were all over the place. And like you said, this is a team who's barely scored any goals prior to that, and all of a sudden they're going nap on us. And whether he's thinking with the subs, how there's so many games in that short space of time that once it got, because when it got to 2-1, I said to him, well, that's that
done. I think even when they scored that first, I thought,
done. You sort of knew we weren't going to get back into it, and maybe he's thought, I need to save some legs for the rest of the games that were coming thick and fast. But
shouldn't we be looking? Shouldn't be looking at how we set up second half? I mean, when we played Huddersfield and went down to 10, we went 4-4-1.
Yeah, as I said, you could have took your defenders in and tried to see
4-4-1, and we battled like crazy. We battled like mad, and listen, and he was just I don't know. He just, to me, it was the setup was wrong. To try and play 5 at the back when you've only got 10 men doesn't work, because you can't get the support fast enough to the front man, and then we just end up just sucking pressure on and just going nowhere, did we? I mean, like, you could argue till the cows come home about how many of the goals should have stood, but like I think we created our own issues, and God help us. We can't have that mindset again if we go down to 10 men. 2 banks of 4 and a 1. It's got to be.
Tom, come to you. Firstly, your thoughts on the red card. CJ sub, obviously, is a big dog there, saying we went down to 10 and then 9 when CJ's come on. And also, could have been a different story had that chance from Ashley Fletcher just headed just wide, and if that goes in, is it a different game?
Yeah, it is a different game. And it was so close. It just glanced off his forehead. It was right in front of me, and I thought it was just nestling in, spinning off the bottom of the post and into the goal, but it just went wide. In terms of the red, it's one of those where you can see why he's giving it. I think when I saw it happen, I thought, why is he lunged in there? And I didn't change my mind when I saw the replay. I don't think it's a red card. I don't think it ever should be a red card. And no one ever plays the game for that to be a red card. That's not what football is in this, in this country or all around the world. So I don't think it should be a red. But when we're looking at modern football and the challenges you see in the Premier League and what people get sent off for, I can absolutely see that he's giving the referee a decision to make. I think he's gone in at a high angle. He's not put his foot along the floor and studs up or anything, or kept his foot low. He's come in sort of in that angle. Sorry for the audio listeners, but he's gone in sort of from knee height down onto the ball. He's won the ball, but the refs deemed it a dangerous tackle, and that's why it's not been overturned. So I think James Husband's got previous of that. I'm not saying he's done it intentionally or anything like that, but he's had some silly red cards in his career with us, and I think this is another one where he's really left us in a really vulnerable position because, we're down to 10 men. It's the 3rd game in about 8 days. Like Everett said in his post-match, it's the worst thing that could have happened to us because we're knackered already. There's no options off the bench. We're down injury-wise, and we're down to 10 men. So, I think I can see why he's giving it, and I think it's really disappointing. From their second half performance is unforgivable. I think we were tired, and I can totally appreciate that. And Everett saying it was the worst thing that could have happened, but how many times have we played teams that have just put 10 behind the ball and made it really difficult for us and ground out a 1-0 or a 0-0 or whatever it might be in a tight game, just like we did against Huddersfield? So the fact that we folded like a pack of cards is almost unforgivable, really. When you consider that we've gone through the last 2 or 3 years of being spineless, lacking leadership, lacking leaders all over the field, any kind of, we're so fragile, and I think it's just come into the fore again. There's no talkers on the pitch. There's no leadership. There's no one who's going to grab the game, get the ball and run 30 yards like Josh Bowley used to do and turn defence into attack. That player's obviously not quite there for us at the moment. CJ, with his pace, used to be an out ball over the top and would gain ground. You've not got that. You've not got players who are going to dig in and put a tackle in. We just folded, and you're conceding from set pieces again. You're conceding soft goals. Yes, you could argue maybe it's a handball for the third, but it was like your worst nightmare. All that optimism going into the game in that first half, and at half time you're thinking, just keep it tight for 10 minutes, and then you concede from a corner, and as soon as it goes 2-1, that's game over. But I just would have liked to have seen a bit more fight, a little bit more, even when we're 2-1 down, George Honeyman going and getting the ball and running to the centre spot and ready to take kick off again and thinking, oh, come on, we can score the next goal. But it was just gone on it. So I was really disappointed. I think Everett probably has given it both barrels after the game and probably did at half time. And, in the press, he's not going to come out and he's still early in his reign, isn't he? He's 11 games in. I don't think he's going to start slating players. But behind the scenes, I can imagine he's very disappointed with that. And he's probably made a few decisions. We're in the transfer window now. He's probably realised a few of them aren't going to cut the mustard long term because a lot of them have played a number of games for this club and it's not worked. So, yeah, I think it's probably the only positive is he's probably made his mind up on a few of them and he has realised what this team's missing, which is leadership and, some balls, let's say, when they go behind.
Anyone got any more to add on this game before we move on? Just interestingly,
yes, I never want to go to Vale Park again. and my mate Crumpy, who supports Vale, says, I haven't seen a home goal since September. Can we play you every week? And I was just going, if I could use the word something off, then I would. Yeah. Just cheers for that, Crumpy. Hope we never play you again.
I mean, the worst thing from that result was the loss of James Husband for 3 games. I think he has been very influential since he's come back. Carmen
probably 4
at the back. What's that?
Probably 4 now, maybe 5 for his words to the referee.
Because he's been charged, hasn't he?
Because he's been charged with foul and abusive language to the referee.
Did anyone see that video that was doing the rounds
on
X where there was actually a worse challenge by a Vale player on one of ours? That it was actually a proper scissors, 2-footed lunge scissors leg breaker on. Who was it on? Left back. I've forgotten his name.
Okay.
I can't remember.
I can't remember who it was again.
Yeah, but that was even worse. That was a lot worse. Completely unpunished. If we
was it on Ashworth?
Ashworth, that was right. Yeah, it was on Ashworth.
It was Ashworth. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So he missed that, didn't he? Old Duck Egg, old Terry Duckworth. Didn't see that.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I can understand the fans going on the in the ground going in on the Preston thing, and he sent Jordan Rhodes off last year. I get all that, and we've got every right to be. It's inflamed the situation, hasn't it? But I don't know whether it's subconscious or whatever. Maybe, if he's seen an opportunity to send him off, who knows? We can only speculate on that. But I don't know. The appeal thing, I wasn't surprised when it wasn't overturned, is all I'd say. I didn't expect it to be overturned. And Ian Everett's obviously saying how shocked he is at that. And then you've got the extra bit with the foul and abusive language and extending the games. And I think Everett's got a few fair points in that. I think he said in his comments I was reading this morning that the referee had seen a different angle and may have changed his mind if he'd seen it from that angle. So maybe, but we're not allowed to appeal with that footage because we'd missed the window because it wasn't supplied at the first time or something like that. So he said the process is nonsense, which is totally fair. But based on the fact that was it a red card, the referee's deemed yes, you're not going to see it overturned, I don't think, because it wasn't evident that it was an incorrect decision. Like VAR wouldn't have overturned it. I don't think they go with the on-field decision. So just one of them. I think we've got to write it off. You just don't want it to determine the season. I was thinking if we got to 28 points at Christmas, we were in the mix, and then we just had to beat Port Vale, and we could really start to look upwards, like Peterborough are doing now. They're only 4 points off the playoffs, but they're 3 ahead of us. So we're just that bit adrift now. And then the Bradford game, as we'll come on to, is much the same as that second half against Port Vale, where we looked tired, lacked quality, and it's almost like the season's over now. So I think it's a huge game on Saturday, which again we'll come on to. But the season's hanging by a thread now in terms of points and games, because we've just let a couple of winnable games slip through our fingers, unfortunately.
Nick, more bad news after the Port Vale game, before the Bradford game. The news of Fraser Horsfall, grade 3 hamstring tear. Ian Evatt started playing on a heavy pitch. Early season ankle injury not helping. Out for 8 to 9 weeks. The bad news on the injury front just keeps on coming.
It does, and when we get these hamstring injuries, it's never just a little tweak, is it? It's always full on. We'll see you in, whatever it is, 8, 9, 10, 12 weeks. It's always seems to be the maximum. And it's just at a time when he'd really settled in. We're starting to see the player that you could see had played so many games and was so highly rated at Stockport. I say he's old school. He was comfortable in bringing the ball out, but you could tell he loved a battle, and he got stuck in. And he was doing really well for us. He'd be one of the first names on the team sheet. And without him, and then Hubby, all of a sudden, we just look very light in defence. And obviously, Heckway, who, the jury's out on, but he's injured as well. He's got this toe issue, and you wonder maybe if he's been playing the season when he has played with that, how much that's been hampering him possibly. And it's a massive blow losing him, because he was, like I say, he'd done so well at Stockport, didn't play for a bit, but then had really settled in the team and was putting in some great performances. But this is what happens, I think, when you have quite a few games in a short space of time, and we've not necessarily got that strength in depth to give people enough of a rest between games. It's a big blow. And when I saw that, we were sat in where were we? In the Tipsy Seagull before the Bradford game, and we saw the team and kind of went, this is going to be difficult, because we look a bit lightweight at the back.
Casey, Lyons, and Ashworth, the back three.
Yeah, it just compounds it with Hubby being out as well, doesn't it? Because he does give you, a bit more solidity and a bit more, of a balance, if you like. And yeah, it was always going to be difficult, I think, going into that game once I saw that lineup. It was basically, I think, would we have enough in attack? Because defensively, I think we were going to struggle a bit.
So, Bradford game, didn't go myself. I was in the Alps, couldn't really see the game. Trying on a stream. Tom, see much of the game? How much of was it a poor first half? And by all accounts, it wasn't the best.
Yeah, I was at the game. Yeah, Bloomfield Road. That was my second visit of the season after Stevenage on the opening day. So another lovely visit. One of them. I think there wasn't much between the two teams. It's a classic Graham Alexander, simple football. I think again, Evatt. I think what I'd say about Ian Evatt so far is I've agreed with everything he said in the press, except maybe that the red card was never a foul and a red card. I probably agree with that deep down, but I can see why it's given, hence what I've said about that so far. But in terms of his comments on this game, he said they just do the basics better than we do, and I think that's bang on. I think they've got more hunger, more fight. They're on a roll from last season, and they're a decent side. They've got bang average League One players. That
Curtis Tilt's one of them.
Exactly, Curtis Tilt, who looked unbelievable, by the way. He was dribbling out from the back. He was megging. I think he megged George Honeyman at one point, which is slightly embarrassing for him. You've got Pennington, who would have played. The League One, they're nowhere near the Championship, those types of players. Or there's Sarcevic, who's been at Fleetwood, for example. So, yeah, I saw their lineup and didn't think much of it, but how well drilled they are, that's exactly what you need at this level, and is what served them well to get out of League Two at last after a few years. So, no surprise to see them up there because of how hungry they were. They weren't settling for one all away from home, and what you might say is a tough place to go in Bluefield Road. They had a massive following, and it's a bit of a mistake for the second goal in it. But if they hadn't scored that, I think they'd have scored something else because they created the better chances out of the game, whereas we huffed and puffed and never really got too excited. And then we had the late goal at the end, which I was celebrating for a good 45 seconds. I'm normally quite good at spotting offsides and all that sort of thing, but I didn't see the high foot and I didn't hear the whistle. So that was a real sucker punch to really send me home. I took my wife to that game as well, and she hasn't forgiven me yet for how cold it was, how boring it was, and the fact that we've lost again. So, yeah, licking my wounds.
So it's now official. You are now banned.
Yeah,
like you've got a Seasiders podcast ban instead of a club ban, so you can be number 80 on the list.
Yeah, I'll warn you next time I've got tickets for a game. Yeah, I think Lincoln I think it was the 28th of January last time I went and saw us get anything other than a loss. So, yeah. Come on,
Andy.
come on here instead.
One positive from the game that I saw was Ash Fletcher's finish. Another cool as you like. Just rolled it in with the outside of his foot. He's absolutely mustard at the moment, Ash Fletcher. He put him in front of the goal one. Yeah. Surely he's gonna sort his contract out. Surely.
Well, we keep banging the drum, don't we? Like, they can't sort anything out in the minute, can they? Like, we've needed players since the 1st of Jan, fellas, you know? Sort the job out. That's what they're paid to do.
Is anyone else worried about the fact that we haven't signed anyone yet and it's now the 13th of Jan?
Only all of us. Like, 2 weeks in. We've needed help. We needed help. We sent Hansen back. We've needed help. Like, surely this becomes urgent down the line.
I think the thing is with January,
team
though,
is struggling. I know all this, Nick. Honestly, I know you're quite right. You're the voice of reason and everything else. But we're football fans and we're not reasonable, are we? We want it now because, like, you know, Downs is paid to do a job, surely to God. And
well,
like,
if we don't get players through the door, PDQ, the season's done, isn't it? The season's over. It's more or less over now. With a push, we could have got 2 more players in now for this Saturday, which we need, and we need a lift from somewhere. Go on, Nick, you were going to say?
Right.
Well, I was going to say he's probably looking at he's pretty much said it's January's a difficult time for your recruitment, and we know that. So he's probably got one eye on the summer in terms of where we are in the league, you know, what we're going to spend. Is it better spent now or is it better spent in the summer? And if it's not the players he wants now, then you could argue it's wise to wait. We do need players in. There's no doubt about that. You know, you look at, I think, the left-hand side of defence, definitely. You know, you've
got to be looking at the loan market, haven't you? You've got to be.
Yeah.
That's the key,
if we could get to, you know, easier said than done, but quality loans. Look at what we've done with Imre. If we could repeat that on the left-hand side, happy days. A striker, somebody to give us something different. I know Ennis is due back. He was on the bench on Saturday. But even so, you know, Taylor's out till whenever that is now. Is it March, April time? Could be the season. So if we could get somebody in there, then great. I like the midfield, but again, like Tom was saying before, is there anybody who's really taking it by the scruff of the neck, who's going to get you some goals and you know, drive you on in games, take responsibility? That's another one, but that's maybe where he's perhaps waiting to the summer for that. I'm sure they've got targets. There was a rumour there was someone coming in last week, but it didn't happen. We've also got to look at, you know, potentially who he doesn't really see featuring, and you know, if we can get rid of them. But if they're on decent money in a long contract, again, that's easier said than done. With 1 or 2, there's a few whose contracts are up in the summer, aren't they? So they'll probably be looking themselves as well, I'm sure. So there is still time. but it might be he's looking to do the majority of his business in terms of building the squad in the summer. Maybe right. I don't see 5 or 6 coming in the next couple of weeks. It's probably more maybe a couple of loans. Hanson's gone back, hasn't he? Because obviously Birmingham had sold him. I wonder what will happen with Banks. Like him, makes things happen, but does he fit in the current system? It's a squad that was recruited for 4-4-2, and Evo absolutely is not going to play that. So it's another overhaul at some point, but it's that seems to be the case we say this every window or every summer, don't we? A manager's gone.
This is what we're saying about flip-flopping. This is what we're saying about flip-flopping. We've had this conversation a few times about flip-flopping between 3-5-2 managers and 4-4-2 managers. And we don't have any continuity at all. You'd bang on the money, Nick. I know that, honestly. But we look weak central defence. We look weak in midfield. We've only got 3 strikers where we need 4. And one of those, you could argue, that Bloxham is making his way there to help us out.
We've got CJ playing left wing back. Coulson's not good enough there, really. He's weak.
The rumours of CJ going, those rumours still stand. I don't know if it's for the alleged move has fallen through, but I was talking about that on Saturday at the game, and
Harry Tyra's got his move to Cardiff as well, hasn't he? He's gone to Cardiff today.
Yeah, I mean, Harry Tyra didn't come to us because he wanted to get his move to the Championship, and he'll get the Championship next season, won't he? But CJ, you could argue that it would leave us infinitely weaker in the squad if he went and we didn't have a replacement. At least on Saturday, he used a bit of pace and to get in behind him.
He was the main threat.
Not
actually,
come
on
too
Saturday.
much. I thought so. I thought so too, and we actually put some good balls through to him, and ultimately it's not come down to something, but it was a threat. And really, if they'd have got at him, I'll come to it in the Ipswich game. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead, but we have to get some covering. I don't disagree with Bison's that, the current he's put the current squad's going down, but I'm not quite sure we're going down, but we're in trouble and we're going to have to scrap and fight for everything. And then you go back to what you boys were saying before of where's the leaders that you need when they're scrapping a fight, and we haven't got enough. Evans, you'd think would be the leader, the amount that he points and he's annoyed at everyone else's mistakes except his own, but he's no leader. The only probably Hubby you could point to, but he's done what he's done and he's out for a while. Honeyman tries, but he's up the field, and you could argue if he was fit, the most sensible person to be the leader is the horse, but now he's out for 3 months as well. It's really worrying.
Tom, let's come to your views on this. Tony Lawson said it's not wise to wait, or we could be looking at League Two players. We can't wait. Do you agree with that? And just general thoughts on the lack of strength in depth in the squad?
Yeah, well, I'll start by saying we've only got 4 centre halves in the squad. We're playing Lions there, so there's an obvious gap of 2 players there before you even start. When you've sacked Steve Bruce and you've appointed Ian Evatt, you suddenly need 2 more centre halves. So that's an obvious gap that we've known about for 2 months, 3 months. So I would have liked to have thought we had a loan lined up. The most obvious thing in the world to say will be Elkan Baggett, who can't get a game at Ipswich, who we saw on Saturday play about 3 minutes and knows the club. That would be an easy win. Whether you want him or not, whether he's the right character, I don't know what the considerations are, but that could have been an easy win. But yeah, Everett said he wants 4 or 5 in, hasn't he? So maybe that's his message upwards to say, I don't know, I've been promised when I came in that this isn't my side and I need to make some changes, so I need to do it in January. Whether he's had that agreement, who knows? I'm sure the club's trying. People are obviously getting negative about it because we've been hurt by it and we've been let down by it over the last 2 or 3 seasons. Since Critchley walked out on us 4 years ago, we've seen, I don't think we've had a good transfer window since, have we? And arguably, even when we got promoted to the Championship, it wasn't the best. When we signed Tyrese, John Jules and players like that who really weren't capable at the level. So it's a long time and a lot of different staff at the club that have maybe missed the mark on it. And I think Sadler, I'm a bit split on it really. I think Sadler will be wise not. I've got a problem with the loan market because it leaves you with the same gaps to fill in the summer. So that's not ideal. It's never ideal. But then if you're looking at permanent transfers, they cost money and it's a difficult time to buy players. Do you go for that now when you can get a better option in the summer? I can understand not always, because we did the same last January with the Kyle Joseph money. We waited and then we were able to be quite decisive in the summer. Whilst that hasn't worked so far, we spent some good money, didn't we, in the summer, and everything was looking good before a ball was kicked. And then to not do anything, I think is just not an option at the moment because of the injuries. I think the injuries has absolutely killed us. So yeah, we do look pretty thin at the moment. And even I think a lot of the players have come back. You have Morgan who's back now. Maybe he's not found his form, but Imre is back. We were waiting for him for a long time. So you find yourself just waiting and waiting for these players to come back, don't you? And you're never going to have a fully fit squad. There's always going to be 1 or 2 injured. So I think Ennis is the most obvious one. But after Ennis comes back, I think apart from the long term, there's Horsfall and Taylor. I think we'll be full health again. But the squad doesn't look very strong, does it? So I think I'm a bit confused about all of what we need. If Everett says 4 or 5, then it's 4 or 5. But you'd expect if we're going to get that many in, you're going to see players going out. And when you look at that, then you've got Evans and Hamilton, whose contracts are both up in the summer. I would expect them both to go in the summer, if not before. So that's 2 gaps. You've got your, let's call CJ a left wing back for argument's sake. Everett's your centre midfielder. You've got a gap of 2 centre halves. That's your 4 players that you need. Probably a striker, given Taylor's out. That's 5. I would say they're the gaps. And then you just need to, you got to hope that Finnegan comes in. And the last point I would make on this is Finnegan, we've recalled him. I don't know what the window was, but I was surprised we didn't recall him for the Bradford game because that was another week missed of Finnegan. I actually thought he was going to be cup tied for Ipswich, but he was on the bench. But he didn't even get on, I don't believe. So that surprised me, given what Everett's been saying about how they need a rest and they're getting a run around from a good Championship side. I maybe would have thought Finnegan would have got half an hour just to get him back in, but maybe he needs a little bit more training to learn the patterns of play. But yeah, there's a lot of confusing decisions being made at the moment, and I'm not convinced we're going to make the right decisions for January.
Reasons to be cheerful, Nick, about the Bradford game, just before we move on. We did have a greater XG than them, 1.18 to 0.57. Is that scant consolation based on
it is.
what you saw in front of you?
You know my view on XG, John.
Did it tell a story though? I don't think they were the better side by all accounts.
Well, I think like Tom said, and I think I said it afterwards when I was walking out to gym, it's another team who were just well organised and well drilled, and that's all you seem to need to be in this division. Going back to Stevenage on the opening day, none of these teams have got superstars. It's just well organised. Everyone knows what they're going to do, and they do it. Yeah, so I don't think maybe a bit unlucky with the not getting the equaliser at the end, a little bit harsh. But at the same time, I can't really say that we were great either. And it was a mistake for their second goal. We did well with Fletcher's finish to get back into it, and I thought 1-1 probably I would have taken that, on the balance of it. But yeah, it wasn't to be.
So let's move on to the Ipswich game. Nick, you can come in on this first. Talk us through the journey in the morning. Fantastic to see the amount of coaches. Was it 20 plus? Thanks to Steve and Tread Tracker. Just talk us through the day where the coaches started off from, and the organisation behind it all.
Yeah, well, I mean, the organisation. It's hard enough to do one coach, having done them myself over the years, let alone 20. So we ended up going we were on the Polton coach, and then Tim got us onto a different one that went from Bloomfield Road. So it was an early start. I think it was up at 4:30. We got there about 5:45. Saw Steve from Tread Tracker, and he needed a few people to act as stewards for the coaches, just to check people in. He had lists for everybody. So me and Tim got roped into doing that. So we both got on a different coach initially, just to check everybody on and off. There were a few missing from each coach, which I think, when you get an early start, you're probably going to get that, unfortunately. But obviously the majority were there. I think we set off about 6:15 from the coach park, just across from the back of the north, and it was great to see all the coaches in convoy. Everybody was in really good spirits. It's a long journey, but I think when you're having a laugh, you don't notice it as much. A lot of the coaches stopped at the same service station on the way down, so you were saying hello to people, catching up with people, that sort of thing. There was concerns about the weather earlier in the week because there was this storm and there'd been quite a bit of snow in parts of the country, but it wasn't too bad, thankfully. Certainly nothing that impacted the journey in any way. So we got down there about, what was it, a half an hour stop on the way. Got down there about 12-ish.
Half 11.
Yeah, was it?
Was.
Yeah, between half 11
yeah,
and 12.
Good going.
Quarter to 12, I reckon, something like that. No, yeah, 12 o'clock, Nick. You're right. Bang on.
Yeah.
And anyway,
we had a bit of a detour. For some reason, we came off the M6 somewhere around Birmingham, and kind of like, what are we doing here? And the driver announced he thought we were going on a cruise, so I think we were headed to Southampton at one point. So we had to turn back. We had a bit of a 20-minute detour to get back onto the M6. But apart from that,
the driver thought they were going on a cruise.
He came on the radio and said, I don't know if he'd set the sat nav or it was set previously, because obviously they will go down to it'll be Southampton, won't it, for cruises? Or he's gone in autopilot because he normally does that. I don't know, but yeah. So we had to turn back for a little bit, and hence why we were slightly later than the other coaches. But it was a nice coach, so I didn't mind it.
Rumours of a champagne breakfast for certain podcasters.
Shambles. Absolute shambles.
I don't think we need to get bogged down in who went on which number coach, whether the coach had normal leg room or whether it had a luxury upper deck with tables, with tea and coffee, with a lady coming around with Kit Kats, with individual TVs with Sky Sports. We don't need to worry about beer fridge, Neff oven. No, I'm joking. It was very, very nice. Yeah, we were very fortunate to be on that coach. But it was about the journey down, all the fans together, all in it together. I don't think anybody was going there thinking, we're gonna have a comfortable win or anything like that. It was more for the day and the gesture from Tread Tracker, which, like I say, was absolutely incredible. So it was a good journey down, and then I have to say it was nice in Ipswich. A lot of the fans headed down to the marina. There's a few sort of bars and pubs down there. So we went in one called Isaac's, and there was quite a lot of Blackpool fans in there. There's a courtyard area at the back, and they had a load of screens up there showing the different. There was a few early kickoffs in the FA Cup, showing those. So we had a good couple of hours in there.
Who knew Ipswich would have a marina? Who knew?
I was very surprised. Yes, I have to say. There's some very nice yachts moored up. Yeah, and then we walked down to the ground. It was about 15-20 minutes to the ground. Obviously, it's an old school ground, but I really like the ground. It's a ground with a lot of history, a bit tight in that away end, but nevertheless, it was a very good following, very good atmosphere from the Blackpool fans. Everybody was in really good voice, enjoying themselves. Pretty quiet from the home fans, I have to say, considering I think it was pretty much a sellout, or they'd sold something like 24,000 tickets. But then I suppose for them, we're not particularly a big draw, or it's considered a big game. So it was a Blackpool fans certainly doing all of the singing and making a lot of the noise, even if we weren't necessarily creating a lot on the pitch. I think it was just, let's enjoy the day out. It's a long trip. Let's make the most of it.
So he's met with soft hospitality on his coach, and I'm met with Grimmy telling, "Fuck off, Gracie," as soon as I get on. So the clipboard man was a shambles on our coach until coach 18, until Walshy took over, and then once Walshy took over, there was a bit of organisation returned. So
Tom, was there a pickup
sack
in
the
Leeds?
clipboard man.
There was a pickup in Leeds as well. Yorkshire Seasiders, were you on that, or were you travelling?
Yes. Yeah, so we went from Leeds. It was, I believe, the Yorkshire Seasiders do the similar thing every time. So it was Leeds to Wakefield to Meadowhall and then down. So I believe if they go north, then they start at Meadowhall and call up to Leeds via Wakefield, and then vice versa for all of the games, which is a pretty good system. So I'd say 20 got on at Leeds, about 4 got on at Wakefield, and then another 10 at Sheffield. So by the time we'd done that, there was about 30, 35 of us on there, which was great. And similar experience. We called a village just north of Ipswich for about an hour 45. So we got there about 12. 1:45 we left for the ground, but I think he took the wrong turn on the way into Ipswich. We ended up in all the match day traffic for about half an hour going round. You could see the ground, and we had to go right round it to get to the coach park. So by the time we got there, we were the last coach to pull in, so there was no space left. But we got off, and I got into the ground about 5 minutes before kickoff, so just sneaked in. And then the whole end was full and really tight. So I just, rather than finding my seat, I had to just spot a gap and just squeeze past people to get in. But great experience. A ground I would never have been to be honest. I don't think, unless it's the last day of the season, you need to win to get in the playoffs or something like that. It's just not the kind of ground that would ever take that many people to. So an amazing attendance, an amazing gesture from Stephen Tread Tracker. So really good day. To say it was free coach and £10 travel, the only sacrifice you're making really is the time, isn't it? So if you're free, everyone pretty much who was free was down there. So it was great. Really, really enjoyed it.
We did say, John, on the previous pod about how much it was going to be to get there and things like that before Steve came up with this fantastic gesture. And we were looking at a lot of money, wasn't it? For me and my grandson was a lot of money. And the day cost me £10 for my ticket, £3 for his. And then, your peripherals on the day for food and drink or whatever. But to have a day at that, to take him to a ground that he very rarely would ever get to visit. So I think all round, well worth going. And, as Nick said, the marina was really good atmosphere before the game with all the fans. But ultimately, I actually stood behind him at the game. Ultimately, many thanks from all of us to Steve and the family for what they did for us. We owe him a huge gratitude for what we've done. It was a brilliant day, really, apart from the result, which we can't do anything about.
As for the game itself, then, Andy, pretty much one-way traffic from Ipswich. Wasn't surprised when they went ahead for Philogene, 35 minutes. Very well worked goal, one touch passing, bang, bang, bang. First time shot in. Not a lot you could do about it. And a class side, Ipswich. We were a class side.
I was just a bit disappointed because we had all our men within about 25 yards of the goal, and still a bit of lethargy on the left-hand edge of the box. A bit of lethargy from not closing a man down quick enough led us to Imre having to tuck in and take the man that was inside and leaving the man on the outside. It wasn't Imre's fault. That was caused by us. And it was so obvious from where I stood that it was the lack of press from our more forward players, if you like, on the edge of the box that had enabled them to get the overload on their left. And Philogene,
I think the first fade, someone just jumped out of the way, didn't they? Yeah. What was his name? He was playing with his socks around his ankles.
Jack Clark.
Clark. Oh yeah, he was mustard, wasn't he? Running rings around us. What a player! Ex-Sunderland, I believe. Very good player.
I mean, they had some good quality
players. Some serious players.
Yeah, they weren't not full strength, but they had 4 or 5 in there who could probably hold their own in the Premier League. And then even when they took them off, 20 minutes to go, they stuck a couple on, didn't they, from the bench? I can't think who it was now, but
Sammy Smodic's coming on as well.
Yeah, Smodic's. They've paid good money for him from Blackburn. So, it's not like they were
20 million for one player there, according to Mark.
Yeah.
Listen, 20 million. Jesus.
Who else came on? Casey McAteer. Casey McAteer came on. Jesus, he's played a bit in the Premier League, and didn't look out of place in the Premier League. It's a good player.
They didn't seem to get out of first gear, really. If we're being totally honest, did they? They were knocking the ball about nicely. It was just they had us penned in for a lot of the game. Obviously, that's down to the style of play that we went for, and the approach was to probably keep it tight and try and nick a goal. We had a couple of chances in the first half. I know there was a good save, wasn't there, down the far end. I think it might have been CJ or trying to think who it was that whipped the ball in, but maybe Imre had a shot, I believe, which the keeper saved. And then in the second half, obviously CJ broke a couple of times. Once was saved by the keeper. The other one, I think he was just offside, and then he blazed it wide. And then, obviously we had the penalty as well. So on another day, maybe we could have absolutely ragged it and got a draw out of it, but I don't think we ever went to win that game. And I think on reflection, Ian Everts probably thought he's got to play a strong team because of the great following we've got and the fact that he wants to test us against a good side, but he probably was protecting the fitness a little bit and just trying to tweak it a little bit. And he tried something different as well with the shape of the team. So maybe he wanted to sort of see how the players are equipped for that kind of setup as well. But we were never really in that game, I don't think.
Yeah,
I just felt it was
go on, Andy. Sorry, go on.
Just one quick thing that was sorry, Nick. One quick thing was CJ ran at Ashley Young and got him booked. Never sort of got. We never got him to that position where we were slipping it behind him again, and it just stood out a bit that we perhaps could have done that. And Ashley Young looked integral against CJ.
As Alex Finch said there, Nick, took me a while to recognise it. I was the same. I was like, Jesus, that's the Ashley Young at first.
It is, still going strong at whatever age he is now. But I agree with the guys in terms of Ipswich. They pass the ball around quicker than us, and it is difficult. And you kind of like, what do you do here? It's hard to impose your own style of play sometimes, and you're almost to a little degree in damage limitation mode a bit. You're trying to stay in the game and hope you can, whether it's from a set piece or we broke away with CJ, who I have to say, CJ comes in for a lot of stick. I actually thought he was probably our main threat on Saturday. And when we were talking about the team, when we saw the lineup before the game, and it's a difficult one with all those games that have happened. Who do you play and with who isn't available? We were a little bit limited as to who he was going to pick.
And it's on the bench. Did you expect to see him give him a cameo role maybe for the last 10 minutes?
Well, we wondered. I mean, the rumour was he was going to be back for Barnsley this Saturday, so I was a little bit surprised to see him on the bench. I said afterwards we didn't really lay a glove on them. I didn't think overall. We have had a couple of decent chances, but I think you always felt that if they needed to have stepped it up a gear, they could have done. But then you're dealing with, like I say, individual players who've cost over 20 million quid. So, and that's the Championship now, isn't it? It's crazy money in the Championship, as well as the Prem. So, let's face it.
Do you think some of these comments? Sorry, Nick. Do you think some of these comments that come in are a bit harsh then, given they've got, £20 million players? We've got Bison saying, in a game with nothing to lose, Evert's decided that sitting back, not to get beaten was the thing to do. Dave Jacko has just said set up to limit the defeat rather than win it. Dave Hart, it was a free hit game. We never really give it a go. Do you think there? Fair comment.
Yes, to a degree, but then if you look where we are in the league, even if we'd wanted to go for it with who we've got available,
do you think they'd have just torn us apart?
Potentially, yeah. It's probably a bit similar to, and I'm not comparing them to Man City in any way, but when teams go there, they're probably in two minds of what do we do here? Do you try and do damage limitation when Exeter didn't, did they? But Premier teams, do you try and sit in and keep it 0-0? But it's so difficult because as soon as you go 1-0 down, then you've got to then try and come out, and then you leave yourself exposed to ultimately better players. So I think to lose 2-1, there's no.
I mean, we were still in the game in the second half. It was only one. We could have quite easily,
and I think
quite
it's
easily
probably
have nicked one. And once a game 1-1, mentality changes, momentum can shift, and it doesn't matter if you've got £20 million players. You could have gone on to win the game. So yeah,
if CJ didn't hit the keeper's legs for the 1500th anniversary time as a Blackpool player.
There was that deflection as well. Right. That was quite unlucky, isn't it? That just went at the side of the post. Who knows? With a fully fit squad, maybe we could have got a result. I mean, I watched the Barnsley game last night, and I was very impressed with them. I have to say, I think it'll be tough on Saturday.
Devil's advocate from Pete Dix. Macclesfield did okay against multi-million-pound players. Yeah, there is that as well. Was at their home ground though in the FA Cup.
I think we'd have given it more a go at home. We'd have given it more of a go at home
so.
if we'd have been at home. And I thought he had Ennis on the bench, and I bet he wanted to use him for 10 minutes. But why it was 1-0? Why it's 1-0? Surely if we nick one, then it goes into extra time, and he would have probably had to have used him in extra time. And so he's probably got that niggling away. And if he brings him on with 10 minutes to go and he scores and we go 1-1, he's then got to play him for 40 minutes, and he didn't really want to. So I thought he was stuck between a rock and a hard place with that, to be honest. And that's the way I read it at the time. But maybe he only had him there if he really had to use him. He didn't really.
But to close this off, we'd have got, as Mark says, we'd have got a crap draw anyway. We all know it, so it doesn't really matter.
Away.
Yeah, we'd have. Yeah,
Wrexham away would have got.
We wouldn't have got a decent one, would we?
Portsmouth.
But I think
I'll tell you, would have got Southampton away, and the coach driver would have taken you to Ipswich.
We would have followed Ipswich's thing, wouldn't we? Wrexham away. We would have got
quite possibly. But I think regardless of the result, like we said before, I think it shouldn't be remembered for the game. It will be remembered for the gesture from Tread Tracker, and we'd have had 300 fans there otherwise, and never given it a second mention. And it'll be like Barnet was in 20 years' time. There'll have been 10,000 people at Ipswich.
Unfortunately, I wasn't one of them, but I was at Barnet. I always miss these big events coming back from a ski trip. But just to close out, say many thanks to Steve and Tread Tracker. Amazing gesture. It must have been a fantastic day out, regardless of the result. I'm sure it was. I saw all the pictures. I was jealous not of being there. Wasn't jealous of Tim getting his deli belly from what has he had, Nick? Crayfish and
he had the most Tim service station meal ever. So we all got back on with, McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, and he pulls out this pot of avocado and crayfish and proceeded to be very, very ill for the next 24 hours. Brilliant. So, lesson learned there. Get yourself to Burger King next time, Timothy.
Right, before we go, we've got the pressing issue of Barnsley away this Saturday. Not scored. They've only scored 4 in 5. They haven't won a match in 5 attempts. They haven't kept a clean sheet in 7. So we all know what's going to happen here, don't we?
We do. I said
On
before,
nil
I
defeat.
watched their game last night, and I was very impressed with them, I have to say. They had a couple of decent-looking players. I didn't realise they were as low down as they were in the league. I think they're 17th, aren't they? But they've only played 21 games. So that was that. 4 games in hand on us. Won 8, drawn 5, lost 8. So we know how tight the league is. You win a couple and they'd be right up there. So I think it's going to be tough. Maybe we get 1 or 2 faces in between now and then. Who knows? Ennis back's a boost, isn't it? I don't see him starting. Probably. I think he will be coming off the bench. But yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game.
Tom, your thoughts on the Barnsley game? As Nick's just said, they've got 4 games on us, unbelievably. 4 games, but we are on the same points. They are on a downward trajectory, so this is the game we really need to win just to get our season back on track. And it would be a good marker in the ground and good to get our first points on the board for 2026.
Yeah, I think we're middle of the road last few weeks, but they've had a bit of a bad run, haven't they, over Christmas? So they've dropped a little bit, and they're down there with us at the moment, sort of that little bit above the relegation spots, but with some games in hand. But people always go on about games in hand, and I always say I'd rather have the points on the board than the games in hand. People always assume you're going to win your game in hand and start adding 3 points up and say, oh, if we win them all, we're going to be 8th or whatever. But I think in reality, it doesn't always work out like that. So they'd probably be a bit higher. Yes, 4 games is significant, but they'd be mid-table, wouldn't they? So that's what we're going up against, a mid-table side with a young manager who's obviously still finding his way. So there's a hope that Ian Everett's got is more experienced, longer in the tooth, and can maybe do a job on him a little bit. You've got the fact that they've just come off a tough game where they've gone all the way against a good Liverpool side last night. I know the score in the end was 4-1, but there was a couple of late goals, so they were in that game right up until the end. So hopefully that's kind of we're catching them after we've popped the balloon of that, and they're maybe not as motivated for the game. So that's the other hope. They've obviously got a couple of good players. I know Reyes Cleary has been linked with a move, so hopefully he's gone by Saturday, or I think he'll cause some damage on one flank. And then they've got some other decent players, probably a similar squad to ours. So I think it's going to be a tough game. But from our side, it's a must-win. I just worry about the fact that we probably know 9 or there's no point doing a lineup predictor tonight because 9 or 10 of the names on the team sheet because they've played every single game since Christmas, haven't they? We just haven't got those options off the bench. You might do one thing in midfield where you go with either Bowler or Brown. You've got maybe an option of Scott Banks in there if you wanted to. But other than that, you haven't really got any options, have you? So you kind of know what to prepare for. And I think that's where the hope has to come from for the rest of the season, really, because we're all a bit flat. We won 4 games over Christmas, let's not forget, but we're all a bit flat now because we've lost a couple in the league and everything's looking a bit more negative. But the reasons to be hopeful are that a lot of players still are coming back. The window's open, and I think we are going to sign 1 or 2 over the next couple of weeks. It's going to take time. So if we can perform on Saturday, I just hope to see something different and not see that same meandering performance. You go 1-0 down and you can't fight back. That's what we don't want to see, is it? We want to get the ground rocking. We want to take on a good side. And if we score the first goal, then we've got every chance of turning them over. And then we start to look upwards rather than down, which we're all sort of doing at the moment.
What score are you predicting?
I'm going to go 1-1.
I was thinking that 1-1 from me.
Can I just say that we missed something out from Ipswich? We had substitution of Evans, which was not his greatest moment, shall we say. And like any player who wants to do what he did on Saturday when he got substituted, right, and then wants the fans on side with him, needs to give his head a proper
What did
wobble.
he do, Andy? I didn't see anything.
Right, because he used to play at Ipswich, so he got can to bring Brown on. So they held the board up. So he applauds the Ipswich fans, doesn't even turn to our fans. Like, at all. Right? So if any player wants to play for this football club, like I, along with a lot of others, want them invested in this football club. Right? And they've got to want to play for us. And they've got to bleed tangerine while they're here. Right? But if anybody wants to do that, then they're going to be disengaged very quickly. And so our fan base have got quite rightly going to get on his case, because that was a disgrace from him. So I'm not invested in Evans the same way he's not invested in us. Right? So he's finished from me, and he's like, unless he wants to come and make an apology to the supporters for his behaviour and not the fact that he couldn't be bothered to clap our fans when he got.
I thought he clapped up.
No, he didn't. He clapped. No, he didn't. He turned around to the Ipswich fans and clapped them, Nick.
Yeah, I saw him do that, but
honestly,
I know
he didn't clap down to our fans at all. Didn't clap to our fans at all. Just clap to their fans. No, I'm not having it.
Sleep over it myself, but
no, I'm not going to. But I'm not going to. But he's on his way out, and he's got to be on his way out. He's disenfranchised from us as spectators of our football club.
Right, and he gives the Barnsley match prediction before we go.
1-0 defeat.
1-0 defeat.
Sorry to say. I
can't see
us turning it round this week.
Bright note. Give us some positivity for the Barnsley game, and give us a match prediction, and we'll.
I'm just purely to finish on a positive. I'm going to go 1-0 to Blackpool. Come on!
Good on you. I'll still be there, and I still want us to win.
We all going?
You'll be forgotten to know. I'm staying well away from it. So yeah,
definitely a 1-0 win then.
Yeah, keep away, Tom. Right, gents. Thanks for
more than likely.
Yeah, thanks for your input this evening, gentlemen. Pleasure as always. Thanks for in the comments. See you all at Barnsley, and do subscribe, and follow in podcast listening app of choice. And as we said, is up the pool. So come on, you pool. Let's have a good 26.
Been involved in 2. Can he make 3? Not on this occasion. Well taken by Walsh. Davis is on the far side. Ainscough coming square. That's the ball. That's a good try. What a goal! Oh!